In a matter of seconds, I do believe, we're going to be joined by the reigning, defending UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight champion. We saw earlier this weekend in San Jose at Bellator 206. It is not... I think for a second we started to think that it's easy to jump up a weight class. It's easy to get 2 belts. It is not easy. Just ask Roy McDonald. It is not easy. Not easy at all. Daniel Cormier did this back in July. He was already the light heavyweight champion of the UFC. He moved up to heavyweight to fight Stipe Miocic at UFC 226. And he knocked him out in the first round. And it has been a while since we talked to DC. He was on the show right after that, talked about his injured hand. And then he's kind of kept the low profile, as low of a profile as he would keep, because, of course, he does work for the UFC. He does work for Fox. He does a lot of commentary work for them. He also was in this building. That's where they tape live with Kelly and Ryan, Kelly Ripa and Ryan Seacrest. They actually film it in this building. He was on the show. I think he was phenomenal at that. Hit a home run. I could foresee a day that Daniel Cormier is like the Michael Strahan, not only of our sport, in the sense that he's a guy who broke through from our sport and now is doing the Today Show, Good Morning America. Like, that's how good he is. That's how good he is. And of course, he is invested in the fight on Saturday. Khabib Nurmagomedov, training partner, coach, friend, and whatnot. And he's been in the news as of late. So he is oh so kind to be joining us. Let's not wait any longer. Let us talk to the man himself, the reigning, defending UFC heavyweight and light heavyweight champion, my friend and yours, Daniel Cormier. DC, how are you?
It's good, man. I better enjoy that because Lord knows how long you'll be calling me the heavyweight and light heavyweight champ. Jeez Louise.
Well, for me, that will never change. But okay, if we're going to start there, let's start there. What is going on? Is that 205 belt going away? What's happening? Give us an update.
I don't know exactly because I haven't heard anything, but I imagine they're going to take that belt. Because I am scheduled to fight Brock. I can't fight at 205 first, so I'm pretty sure that they will take that title. One of the things that I asked for as a competitor was that if they do take that belt, just guarantee me a title fight upon the result of the fight that those guys will have.
So someone has reached out to you and said that this is what we're planning on doing.
No, I mean, I initially they told me that they were going to do this for Gustafsson versus Romero. And then in that instance, I was like, okay, well, just guarantee me a title shot when the result is done. So if rumors are true and they're going to do Jones versus Gustafsson, I imagine it's going to be for the belt. Just guarantee me a title fight when that fight is done.
Okay, but now it seems like it's going to be Jones versus Gus at 229, not 229, December 29th, which is kind of 229 because it's 112-29, if you get what I'm saying, at UFC 232. This is the guy, Jon Jones, the history, the rivalry. We'll get to all that in a second, but they're taking away potentially the belt from you to put it on the line for the guy who got stripped of the belt 3 times, light heavyweight, interim belt, and then twice the actual official belt. No. How do you wrap your head around that? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's been a very tense, if I could find a word to describe how I've been in my interactions with the company lately because of that very sentiment. I don't think that, you know how I feel about Jones, man. It's well documented. And I was like, wow, man, it really sucks that it goes to him, if that's what's happening. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. It's tense. And you just kind of question your approach to everything. You wonder if you kind of wonder if trying to maintain a level of professionalism and a certain type of life is ideal because it does not seem as though it will have benefited in this circumstance. But when you look at overall, things maybe aren't as dire as they seem. Because even if, I'm not getting to fight Jones or he's getting the belt, Now I've still got a massive fight with Brock Lesnar. So if a fight with Brock Lesnar for the amount of money that brings and the prestige that brings is your fallback plan, that's a pretty good one to have.
You say that things have been a little tense. It always seems to me like you're always on good terms with Dana White in the UFC. You represent them. You're a commentator. Is this the first time that you guys are not agreeing on something, or as you say, is this the first time that it's been a little tense between you and the company?
Yes, it has. I mean, but, I spoke with Dana on Saturday, I believe, and we got some things kind of hammered out. And, look, we have a very unique relationship, me and Dana, and he's always been really, really good to me. And I've gotten a lot of opportunity, and I've made a lot of money, and really have done a lot of things based on that relationship. So even in the tense times, it's not nearly as bad between him and I as it gets with some of the other people, because we have a relationship where we can talk about things and usually hammer them out pretty good. But yeah, it was good. Honestly, I guess when I think back to everything, it's not that I sit here and go, I hope Jon Jones never gets to fight again. I really don't. Like, I don't wish that the guy can't make a living for his family. I don't wish that he can't compete and try to, not only provide, but do what he's really been made to do. I'm not sitting here going, God, I hope this guy gets 5 years. No. I just wanted consistency. And even if that meant 18 months and he was back next year, or 2 years that some of these guys have gotten, it would be fine. And I'm not even saying that in regard to me walking away from the sport. I'm just trying to say it in terms of what seems right should be pretty right.
Did you throw out the idea, okay, you want him to fight for the belt so bad? Fight me. This is a gigantic fight. Fight me.
Yes, but it could not happen right now because of my hand.
Okay.
Like I said, I'd be willing to fight, but it just can't happen right now. And the end of the year date couldn't have worked for me because my hand and my wrist are so messed up. I've broken my right hand 5 times, and then I broke it right above the plate from the last time I broke it against Bigfoot, or Josh Barnett or one of those guys. But the last time I broke my hand, I got a plate with some screws put in, and I broke the bone right above the plate now. Wow. And because I've broken it so many times, now it's just like taking longer to heal, and it's in horrible pain. And now the pain is kind of going into my wrist, so my wrist is all messed up. So it's just a bad situation. I've really broken my hand too many times, I believe.
And have you thought about having surgery?
I see that's the problem. I needed this one to heal because what do? I've already got it's over the pointer finger, like the inside finger. I have a plate with 8 screws over the bone in that hand. But right above the plate, I broke the bone again, like right under the knuckle. So what can they possibly do? Go in there and fix the bone and put another plate? I don't understand how they would do it. So they told me that I would just need to let it heal. And because I've done it so much, the healing is just taking a little bit longer than normal.
Is there a chance that you're just going to have to fight through this for the rest of your career?
I don't know. I really don't know. I can't even make a fist still.
Wow.
I still can't make a fist. And then, I was asked about trying to fight sooner, and I went to try to train. I was like, man, I want to be there as I have been, for the company and try to go and fight, and go try to put on a show. And, man, I could not grab to wrestle. I could not punch. So essentially I was boxing with my left hand and kicking with my legs. With no wrestling. And if you know me, I got to be able to wrestle. Otherwise, I'm in trouble.
Has all of this changed your timeline, DC? Because you have been very steadfast in your belief that you will retire once you turn 40 in March. But now you're saying, okay, if they take the belt away from me, give me the shot at the next guy. The clock is ticking on March, so to speak. That's 5 months away. Have you changed your plans?
Yeah. Not really. I just think that if Brock and I could fight early in January, I could knock another fight out by the mid-March or end of March, if I miss about a week or two, I guess. But I really do want to stick to my retirement date as close as possible, just because, it can happen overnight, Ariel. Like, I don't know when it's going to happen where I just can't do it at the level that I've been doing it. I don't know when it's going to happen. And it's like you watch athletes all the time that are just kind of cruising, and all of a sudden the guy can't throw the deep pass as good as he could before. His arm doesn't work. Remember, you don't know when Father Time just says, okay, enough, and I'm 39 years old, and I've been doing combat sports my entire life, from a little kid wrestling all the way up to the UFC and Strike Force and everything else. So you don't know when eventually the time is up on what I can do with my body, and I don't want that to happen inside the octagon.
Is there wiggle room though, or really you're going to stick to that? Like, now, okay, maybe if it's May, July, all right.
It just depends. It depends on when I can fight Brock, and if we can do this fight early in the year, I think we can get pretty close to March. I don't want to be that guy that's just kind of hanging around and doing things. Like, I love watching legends fight. I love watching them fight. I think it's great. I thought Vanderlei and Rampage fought crazy last weekend, and it was nuts. But, as much as we enjoyed it, it's not the same two guys that fought those other three times,
Right.
So it's just I don't want to be like that. And I'm not knocking those guys by any way, shape, or form, but I want the memories of me to be, me hoisting those titles and having both belts and beating some of the greatest fighters in the world. I don't want to give those other guys chances to build themselves off of my name.
Have they talked to you about Brock seriously? Okay, he's now being tested. He's in the pool. January. Yeah. Like, what have they said to you about that fight?
Well, we haven't started planning the date yet because, obviously my hands.
Yeah.
I think when you put a date on it, then I'm going to go try to push myself, and I'll end up hurting myself again. I think we're taking the approach, just let's wait. But, yeah, that's the fight. That's the fight that's going to happen, and I'm excited about it. Obviously, Brock has a history of some of the same things that Jones does, and people I've heard question me. When you're on the internet and you get like a lot of like negative stuff, it's not the negative stuff that really affects me. It's the person that tweets me or writes to me and says, with a question, even if it's not something I want to hear, but they form a sentence, they form a question and ask me, Daniel, how are you okay with fighting Brock, but you're so vocal about Jones, right? Like but it's not, oh, you're afraid, da-da-da-da. It's like, how are you okay with it? Then I can answer that person as a person instead of someone that's trying to cause a reaction. And this is what I say. Jon Jones is the only guy that I fought that's on steroids. Jon Jones is just the only person that's beaten me in my fight career, and he's on steroids. But I'm pretty sure other guys I fought were on steroids too, but I just beat them all. That's why I say, even though he's on steroids, he won those fights. I'm not taking that away from him because I'm sure, especially before they started testing, other guys were on steroids. I'm not saying that I don't want to fight this guy because he's on steroids. I've done it twice, and I'll do it again. I'm just saying that what's right is right. Let's try to fight under the right circumstances. And if Brock Lesnar can test clean for 6 months and get to the fight and fight clean, then I have no problem doing it, as I have no problem fighting Jones if he is in the program and he's testing clean.
So when the news came out about Jones getting 15 months, it was crazy because it came out on a Wednesday. You're doing UFC tonight, and we get to see sort of your raw reaction, but I thought that you took the high road, and it seemed like maybe you were trying to bite your tongue a little bit and didn't want to make headlines, and I respect that. But now that you've had 2 weeks or so to digest this, how do you feel about how this all played out with Jon and USADA getting the 15 months?
Yeah, at UFC Tonight, I actually didn't want to talk about it, but I've got bosses, and I don't want to make the show that I work with look like a joke. Like, yo, you have this guy's biggest rival on your show as a host, but you're not going to touch it.
Yeah.
And it's so crazy that we didn't get this news before we went and did the show. We had to we had to redo our A block to get that news in there, and that's really messed up. Like, we should have got that news so we could have incorporated it into our show. I don't understand why we didn't get that news prior, because the news broke at like 4:57. We went on the air at 5 o'clock. We wouldn't have even been on. We would have just had been the first one to probably speak about it. So I wish we would have known. Then I could have been a little bit more like me in terms of how I answer things, because I generally don't like to answer on pure emotion. That's never the best way. 2 weeks have passed. Again, as I said at the top of the interview, Ariel, I don't care about him getting back. I just want what's right to be right. Like, what is USADA doing? I don't understand what USADA is doing. I don't understand how they came to this random number of 15 months. It's just such a random number for a suspension to be. And that's where my issue lies. It's like, well, how's it this? How's it 15 months and not 18 months when he could still have fought? If it was 18 months, I think he still would be fine to fight at the end of December. Make it something that's uniform. I mean, guys are getting 2 years for their first offense, and then guys are getting 15 months for their second offense, which is the most insane thing in the world to me. I just think that there's no room for error, man. Like, you can't mess up your drug testing. Like, because why do you put yourself in a situation where you have to go and do all those things and go through all this scrutiny and all this stuff over and over again? Be very aware of what you're putting into your body and make sure that you don't have to put yourself, your family, your fans, the UFC, USADA into this position. Because now look at USADA. This is probably the greatest testing organization in the entire world, and now their credibility has to be challenged. It's unbelievable.
And you're like one of the great ambassadors. You don't like to ruffle feathers, but you're the one calling them out. You're the one saying, I'm not picking up the phone. Have you received heat for this? I mean, they can't be on your bad side. You're the wrong guy. You're the Olympian. You're Mr. America. You're the two-time Olympian, and now you're the one calling into question this testing process, this organization. And you're posting things of your missed calls and saying, I'm not picking up the phone. Are they mad at you? Is the UFC mad at you for doing this?
I don't. What's crazy is, like, the UFC doesn't really get mad at me. That's the thing. Like, they don't get mad at me.
Right.
Like, it's weird. Like, it's like they don't really get mad at me. Like, even, when I say things were tense, it's not like they were mad at me. They're just trying to speak to me and make me understand how things are. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, he didn't do this on purpose, right? Just as they told everybody else, he didn't do this on purpose. That's all that was told to me. And then I when I'm on USADA, it's like, hey, dude, you can't be doing this, right? Like, this is crazy. Like, Like, the guy went through the process. The guy did the right thing in the process. But try to understand that testing it's evolving. Everything's kind of evolving and going, and just keep maturing. And we just want you to understand how the system works. Problem is that I'm kind of bullheaded, right? And I'm like, yo, I don't care if the system's changed. I haven't done anything different, and I still haven't tested positive for anything. Like, why? So even if it's changing around me, I'm still the same and still not having any mess-ups like that. I'm not testing positive for anything. So I don't care how much it changes. As long as you're clean, you're never going to run into any issues. And that's my approach to this whole USADA thing.
And then Jon Jones, and now it gets really interesting, takes your screen grab and responds to you in a pretty lengthy statement. One part of that statement that sticks out is, quote, "So now that the illusion you've built is crumbling and the, quote, violation was not intended, nor could it have enhanced the athlete's performance," end quote, taking that from the arbitrator's ruling, "you still have to tell yourself something, excuse me." He went in on you with that one. And then you responded, and then you brought up the snitch stuff. And this is something that has
Yeah.
come to light, and Malky has talked about it, but Jon hasn't, that basically his suspension was reduced for, giving out information. Fabricio Verdum coming out and saying he was offered the same deal, and he turned it down because he didn't want to do that.
Crow Cop was offered the same deal. Like, this is not anything new. Like, Jon's just the only one that took it. His Johnny Brasco. Hey, Johnny Brasco. He's Johnny Brasco. Hey, Johnny Brasco. It's like, hey, every time you see John will be in Albuquerque, Black USADA car pull up, take him in. Yep, ready for some information. They go stand on the bridge somewhere. And John's just out there handing out information, screen grabs, everything. How you gonna tell? How are you going to tell on somebody else, man? What? He got 30 months off of his suspension by telling, but then Malky goes out and says, "No, he's kind of told on himself." No, he didn't. And then USADA comes back and actually says that's absolutely not true. And not only did he snitch, he has to continue cooperating if he's going to keep his deal. So, geez, Louise, what a situation he's gotten himself into now.
So I don't know
because
if
at any moment,
go ahead.
This is crazy. It's crazy because if this is to go as it's supposed to, at any moment that USADA needs information, they get to go call Jon. Hey, we're not calling to test you. We're just calling for an update on this information. This is crazy.
Is it possible you have actually lost more respect for the guy? I don't know if that. I mean, you guys never saw eye to eye, but is that possible?
Ariel, how can you cheat and snitch? How you gonna cheat and then get out of trouble too? How you gonna cheat and try to get somebody else in trouble so that you get less trouble? This is crazy. Like, this is the absolute craziest thing that I've ever heard. Where's the honor? Like, I mean, I guess there's no honor amongst thieves, right? Because whoever is doing the dirt too, whoever else is cheating with you, obviously they deserve to get told on too. It's just crazy that it's him that's the one that's doing the telling. Because I'm sure that whoever else with knowledge of the things that he's done in the past could have long said something about him, right? So it's like a lot of people that are trusted in a circle, they can't be trusted anymore. I know damn well I wasn't being friends with him anymore. You can trust that.
So on Friday, as everyone is gearing up for Conor and Khabib, the world, and in particular the MMA world, is talking about you two, and you guys aren't even scheduled to fight. And now I'm starting to believe that the trilogy is bigger than the Brock fight for you. The world wants to see this. Everyone wants to see this. The reception, the reaction to this back and forth on Instagram, just 2 posts back and forth, everyone's just like losing their minds over it. Do you feel like this fight is now bigger for you? Obviously, in terms of legacy and everything, it's the biggest, but even monetarily, like, this is now the fight that you should pursue?
Legacy-wise, it's the biggest fight. But I tell you right now, financially, if I made the first fight against Jon Jones, if I made $3 million, and then the second fight against Jon Jones, I made $3.5 million, $4 million. When I fought on the same card as Brock Lesnar, I would have made $6 million. So financially, it's not the same, right? It's different because Brock brings a whole different level of fan. So even though this is a bigger fight competitively between Jon and I, it's a bigger monetary fight against Lesnar, because if you sell 800,000 pay-per-views to 1.1 million pay-per-views, the amount of money you make at every extra 100,000 pay-per-views is insane.
Knowing the competitor that you are, and just a couple more minutes left, thank you so much for the time, BC. This has been phenomenal. You can't retire before fighting him again, right? This can't happen.
I got to fight. We're going to fight again. I mean, a lot of people around me, especially Bob Cook, who's like so mad right now. If there was any guy that was more upset with this whole thing than me, it was Bob. Because Bob loves me. And Bob is like, I wish you could just let this guy go. He's like, I want you to just let it go. He's like, because he doesn't believe that I'm going to get a fair shake. Rosendo Sanchez, Bob is worried that if we fight again, Rosendo's going to go to jail because he's either going to hit Melky or hit somebody. I mean, obviously, you saw him hit Brock Lesnar, yes. So he's not afraid of anyone. So it's like Bob and them are just like, it's such a toxic situation that Bob's like, if we could just let it go. And the only thing I can tell him is, Bob, I can't turn this off, right? I can't turn this off. It's what makes me uniquely me, my competitiveness and my desire to fight and compete against the best in the world. And at the bottom of it, no matter how much I talk garbage about this dude, no matter how much I disrespect him or whatever, he's still one of the greatest fighters ever. And I have never not said that. He's a phenomenal talent. He's a fantastic fighter. He's just he is just he's just a cheater. At the end of the day, he's just a cheater. And ultimately, that fault that he's a cheater does not deter me from wanting to compete against him again.
I know you take a lot of pride in being the double champ. I saw you at Bellator. You're getting a hero's welcome in San Jose, as you should.
Yeah.
And I know you also posted on Instagram last week, like you were having a tough time, and you've explained why it's been a tough time. But if that reality comes to pass where they take the belt away and they put it on him if he wins against Gus, and a lot of people would probably expect that to happen, how are you going to deal with that, watching that?
Nah, I don't think it's going to matter too much to me. It is what it is. I've really kind of now turned the page in terms of I'm only going to worry about the things that I can control. And honestly, man, I spoke to the bosses. I spoke to the people that matter at the UFC, and in these conversations, I spoke to Dana, I spoke to Hunter. In those conversations, I have come and gained a source of comfort and peace in knowing that at the end of all this, Ariel, if anybody's going to be in a position of comfort, of security, not only financially, but long-term financial till I'm 50, 60 years old in this company, it's me. And I am more than okay with that. Okay.
So how do you see this playing out? January-ish, Brock, and then you get that one last fight in. That's the perfect scenario, right?
That's perfect. I fight Brock hopefully beginning of next year, January. Take a week or two off and then prepare for another one. Because I tell you this right now, I'm going to beat the shit out of Brock Lesnar, so I ain't going to be in there too long. Just know that I'm going to crush Brock Lesnar. All the frustration that I have for Dana, all the frustration that I had for Hunter and USADA and everybody else, that Brock gets all that. So just know that I was happy when I fought. Look, if I was happy to fight and respectful against Stipe and Dan Henderson, imagine what I'm going to do to Brock when I'm pissed off. Dude, the show. You got to find a way out of this fight.
You're not working the show this weekend. Your guy Khabib is fighting.
No.
What are you doing this week for Khabib? Are you in his corner?
No, I'm not in his corner, but I will be in Vegas with my family. My son loves Khabib, man. He loves Khabib, and he wants to watch. My whole family supports him fully, and we're excited to go and watch him compete against Conor. For everything that Conor is, man, he is a fantastic fighter, and he is game. Conor McGregor will fight anybody, anytime, and I truly respect him for not only taking this fight, but for everything that he's done and for always being a gentleman. McGregor's always been a gentleman to me, and I expect that nothing will change as he goes into this fight with Khabib. I just know that he has his hands full, though. Khabib Nurmagomedov is on the verge of just exploding. I watch as people come to the gym daily, hundreds of people, to just see Khabib. And I know that behind those walls, he's working as hard as any human being I've ever seen. I'm talking Cain Velasquez level of working back when Cain was healthy, and I know that's going to lead to Saturday being a long night for Conor. But doesn't matter. It's going to be a great event, and I can't wait to get there.
Thank you so much, DC. I can't thank you enough. It's always great to have you on. We don't take it for granted. I hope this storm passes. You're taken care of. It all works out for you. I appreciate the insight and the candor as always, my man. Thank you so much.
My man, I appreciate it. Just know you're the man. And lastly, that post Jones wrote to me, he did not write that. There's no way Jones. There's no way Jones formed those many sentences in a row. There's no way he actually had all that correct. His commas were in the right place. He made periods, no run-on sentences. your ghostwriter is. Put me in contact with him, man.
All
Guy's
right.
pretty good.
A parting shot.
All right, dude.
Thank you, DC.
Party shot. All right.
There he
Talk
is.
to you later, bud.
The reigning,
Bye.
at least for now, defending UFC light heavyweight and heavyweight champion, the one and only Daniel Cormier, with a parting shot to what he calls Jon Jones' ghostwriter on Instagram. It got very heated. It went back and forth. There's nothing like those two. That rivalry is the best in the history of the sport. Maybe Conor and Khabib changed that beginning this weekend. But right now, they are the Ali Frazier of our lifetime. And, of course, that feud, that rivalry, you know, that was built on politics, and there was a lot that went into that. I mean, given the times, Vietnam, race relations, it was different, 100%. But this is just two men who will never see eye to eye, who think that they are better than each other. One has now 2 victories over the other. He's got the baggage. He's got the past. He's never been beat inside the octagon. I mean, they just do not like each other. And I do not believe for one second that DC will retire whenever that time comes without fighting Jon at least one more time. At least one more time. Look, Rampage and Vanderlei have fought 4 times. Who knows? DC beats him in the 3rd fight, and then they do it a 4th time. And then they do it who knows? But he will not retire without fighting him one more time. That is my prediction.